Steeghs. I'm Senior Director of Social Performance and ESG, that's Environment Social Governance at Yamana Gold. And I'm coming to you today from one of our mine sites in the Atacama region of Chile, which looks quite similar to the background that is in everybody's slides. So it's very, very fitting. So we have a really incredible session today. We're going to have two keynote speakers, followed by two panelists. I guess everybody's going to be invited for the panelists. But what I'm going to do is just start with some very brief introductions, specifically to our keynote speakers. And then when we switch from the keynote topics into the more general panel discussion, which I will facilitate, I'll also introduce our esteemed panelists. But given the short amount of time and the incredible caliber of speakers, I'm just going to start with the introduction of our two panelists. First, we have Doris Hiam-Galvez, and please correct me if I'm saying that wrong, Doris. Doris is a PhD in metallurgy and has a very broad senior level of experience in the mining and metals industry. She is currently an advisor to Hatch, a company in which she has lots of experience running both Hatch Peru until I think it was 2012 and Hatch Europe until 2017. Through her time in the industry, she has developed a concept called designing sustainable prosperity. A topic which has attracted a lot of interest from both the mining sector as well as investors, and she's going to speak to that today. This approach really represents, as the title of our sessions suggests, a new approach to doing business, which is very exciting. We're going to give Doris about 10 minutes. Followed by Doris, we're going to hand it over to Carlos Nobre. And Carlos is a Brazilian climate scientist with more than 40 years of experience in the Amazon. He was one of the first to raise the risks of this subject of Amazonian savanization more than 30 years ago. He is the co-chair of the science panel for the Amazon that launched rigorous scientific assessment during COP26 in Glasgow. And today he's going to talk to us about an important tipping point that's ahead of us in terms of deforestation in the Amazon and the need for a concept of bioeconomy, of healthy standing forests and flowing rivers that combines scientific and traditional knowledges with technological innovation. So I'm going to pause there and I'll get to Deborah and Wendy. I'll get to your introductions as we transition into the panels. But right now we're going to start with Doris. Doris, if you want to take it away and introduce your topic, please.
Okay, thank you. I know many of you may think that there is no hope in the future. I think otherwise, and I offer a vision for a better future, a method to enable the creation of a future sustainable society in mining regions. The challenges involved in increasing the production of critical minerals necessary to fuel the energy transition are many, but raise several important questions. What will be the impact on the surrounding communities? Often in rural and remote areas, mining may be the only industry, but mineral resources are finite, and when mining finishes, so too do people's opportunities. So how can we mitigate the long-term impact of mining? By applying designing sustainable prosperity. As shown in this graph, the purchasing power of the local communities is represented on the vertical axis and time on the horizontal axis. Mines have a finite life and can last 10, 20, or 50 or more years. The red curve shows the impact of the mine on the local economy. As the mine goes to full production, some of the income is earned by the local people and the purchasing power increases. As the mine reaches the end of its life, jobs begin to disappear until there's less income. Of course, the preferred outcome is to at least maintain a livable level of economic activity that is also sustainable. The yellow curve shows another level of economic activity generated by the investment to support the mining industry. Suppliers, service, hotels, restaurants, tourism, legal financial structure, etc. This economic activity follows the same trend as mining. The green curve is what we want to achieve, and is what the implementation of Designing Sustainable Prosperity, DSP, brings. The community and economy are catalyzed towards long-term prosperity by the mine. The energy transition is a game changer for mining, but we have to use the boom to build a future for our children. From day one, mining becomes the catalyst for regional prosperity and creates the environment to build long-lasting enterprises that will endure after closure. The big shift is to move our attention from mining alone into the future regional prosperity that will benefit all. Working together for the future builds trust and eliminates conflict. So the objective is to achieve a sufficiently diversified economy with enterprises that are ecologically sustainable so that it is more resistant to the ups and downs of the general economy. So how do we do it? It's a structured approach following 7 basic steps. First, building a platform for collaboration between communities, investors, government, and knowledge experts. We start by identifying 1 or 2 or more parties to work collaboratively for the region. Then integrating multidisciplinary data on a regional scale and matching to the market study. Those are the facts. We use science to build these facts. And these facts assist to reach alignment between all interested parties. Once all of them are aligned to the region's prosperity and using the facts to see all the possibilities, we determine the new innovative enterprises that will become the pillars of the future economy, in addition to mining. These enterprises have to meet high standards of sustainability, protect the environment, and improve the quality of life. Then, of course, we build the plans. Once we know what's possible for the region, we then adapt the education system to provide the skills and tools to support the future diverse economy so that there are jobs for the people in the region. And of course, implementation follows. And when appropriate, the government is a partner in developing the plans, the mining investor is a catalyst, and local communities are deeply involved in the process. They have to put their effort for this to be sustainable. DSP is a method that integrates multiple disciplines to visualize the hidden potential of a region and uses this information to inspire a process where key parties determine long-lasting, innovative enterprises that are ideally suited to a region to compete in the world market. The key is that we build these facts, and these facts, as you can see on the right side, the key is integrated natural resource models. So by understanding how the earth was formed in the region of interest to determine new sources of water, energy, or even soil quality, it's so important to understand the whole water system, underground, surface, and so on, and to account for every drop of water. But also we do world market studies because the markets of these extractive rich regions are very small, so we have to tackle the global market. So we determine specific products, services, and technologies based on the potential identified. We start with solutions for water, then move into green energy, infrastructure, and solutions for waste. And the process can include the knowledge economy and adapting its education to build on this intellectual property for the region. Many regions in the world may not be able to compete in the global market manufacturing commodity products, but rather developing and supplying technologies such as new industrial processes, process control, automation to operate plants more efficiently and manage complex energy green hubs. Here's just a snapshot of integrated natural resource model. So it's unique, the fact that we use geoscience to really visualize the hidden potential of the region, and it's different for every region. Therefore, the solutions are different for every region. Let's look at an example. This map shows the area where there is water scarcity. And in many cases, this is where the mineral concentrations are. Just look at it, the middle part, South America, Australia, and Indonesia, and so on. At the same time, also look at the middle part, the tips and so on. This map shows they have unlimited resources for green energy. The sun. We need green energy to solve the water shortage, especially when you have access to seawater, because the green energy can be used for desalination of seawater. As you can see in this solar energy potential map of the world, in Canada, it's not the best location, but the combination of solar and wind with other methods is still an option. As you go south, it gets better and better. Look at Australia, Africa, Peru, Chile is where the more than 40%, Peru, Chile, more than 40% of the copper concentrates are produced, have the best conditions in the world. These regions will have considerable trouble surviving when mining activity ends, and there is a severe shortage of water already. So there is an opportunity for these regions to position themselves in the world knowledge economy, perfecting complex solar power energy technologies by adapting to the regions, making it economically viable, and become the center of excellence for making these complex things work. There is an opportunity to focus on improving new solar technologies to use as economic source of energy for seawater desalination. The current desalination technologies are expensive, energy intensive, and the brine goes back to the sea with detrimental impacts. There are new solutions, such as what's applied in the NEOM project, using CSP, a more complex technology, to direct desalinate seawater with solar energy and separate the brine and make products out of it. Simpler and profitable. The number one issue we encounter is water availability in water scarce regions and water abundant regions. Water management is priority in every region in the world. But with clean water and clean energy, and a precision agriculture could be developed, but not just producing foods, but fresh produce, but value-added products such as superfoods. To make DSP successful, we need few things. There has to be a potential. There has to be a market. The potential has to be identified. And we need champions. Champions who know what it takes to make it happen. And through this process, many more champions are identified to secure the implementation. When you implement DSP, you will become a catalyst for the region's prosperity. Working with communities to open regions to their full potential will change the role of mining. To make this happen, we start with geoscience and a champion. Are you ready? The time to do is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Doris. And you were right on time. That was very interesting. I have so many questions, but I think we're going to pause them for now, and I'm going to turn to Carlos.
Basically, I will mostly perhaps try to give a little bit of an idea, really fitting with what Doris presented, the importance of creating a new economy for the Amazon. I've been doing for 40 years research in the Amazon, but mostly related to the forest, to the climate change, biodiversity, etc., etc. And I want just to say why we need to find a completely new economic model for all tropical forests in the planet, but particularly for the Amazon. The Amazon forest is very, very, very near a tipping point. Tipping point of turning huge, the largest tropical forest on the planet, into a open canopy degraded ecosystem. And why we say that? Because we are seeing this is not only a projected future for the Amazon. We are seeing unfolding this risk of this tipping point. We are seeing all of the southern Amazon. The forest has about 6.5 million square kilometers. Out of that, about 35% has been altered, 18% clear-cut deforestation, and the 17% several stages of degradation due to selective logging, wildcat mining. Most of these activities in the Amazon are all illegal. Organized crime has been taking over all Amazonian countries. So this is very, very concerning. And why we say the Amazon is very close to tipping point? Because over southern Amazon, from Bolivia all the way to the Atlantic, mostly in Brazilian Amazon, Brazil has 62% of the Amazon rainforest. All the area, we are seeing unfolding the changes. We are seeing the dry season is becoming lengthier, 4 to 5 weeks longer today compared to 1979. So it's becoming almost like the typical climate of the savannas, the tropical savannas, south and north of the Amazon. The dry season is hotter, drier, and very concerning, worrying, is that the tree mortality is increasing tremendously over this area of the Amazon. The species are the wet climate tree species. They are not adapted to let's say, a long dry season like the tropical savannas. So we are at the edge of the cliff of this tipping point. And if we continue to deforestation, degradation, and global warming, because global warming is inducing all over the planet more intense and frequent climate extremes. In the Amazon, it's mostly severe droughts, 2005, 2010, 2015, 16, 2020. Before, we used to have one drought every 2 decades. Now we're having 2 droughts per decade. So all of that is putting this huge area of forest into this very, very near the tipping point. So that's very clear. Many, many scientific studies are showing. And so we have to control global warming. We have to have plenty of success in achieving the Paris Agreement targets, not letting the temperature goes above 1.5 degrees. But also we have to get to zero deforestation, zero forest degradation, and zero wildfires. And the forest degradation and wildfires are increasing tremendously in the Amazon, due mostly to all illegal activities, land grabbing, illegal mining. That affects severely all the traditional populations in the Amazon, mostly the indigenous people. So now what should we do? First, of course, stop deforestation, degradation, which is in the Brazilian Amazon, 95% of deforestation degradation is illegal. So it's controlled by organized crime. And we have to create, and I will announce a new program during the COP27 in Egypt, to creating a huge forest restoration project. We want to convey the importance of restoring 1 million square kilometers, 100 million hectares. That will remove between 1 billion and 1.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere every year, combating climate change, preventing this tipping point, and maintaining biodiversity. So finally, let me say, what else? Well, what's the potential? And this is the question about a sustainable economy. The current economy in the Amazon with the deforestation for cattle ranches is very poor economy. Most of the Amazonian population living in the deforested areas, they are very poor. Now, this economic model has driven many millions, tens of millions of people to poverty. So we need to find a new, and the greatest potential of the Amazon, and this is a new bioeconomy. The forest coming from the biodiversity, Amazon has 13% of all plant animal species in the planet. Indigenous populations used hundreds of those products in their living for thousands of years. And now we only use the whole Amazon to produce beef and to produce grain and to produce a few minerals, gold, mostly illegally. So we have to develop this new economy. Agroecological systems are bringing much better quality of life today to 500,000 people living in the Amazon. They reach almost middle class because agroecological systems produce tens of different products, always keeping the forest standing. So that's the idea, a new bioeconomy we call a standing forest, flowing rivers, healthy bioeconomy. This is our major challenge in Amazonian countries, but we need the support, collaboration with the scientific community all over the planet to bring innovation, to bring industrialization of these products. So this is our big challenge, to save the largest tropical forest and to save also more than 400 indigenous groups who live in the Amazon. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. That's really fascinating, and I'm going to open the panel up now for further discussions. But when we get into more detailed discussion, Professor Nobre, I would really like to hear a few examples of what agroecological systems look like for those of us who are less familiar with those specific aspects. So right now, though, what I want to do is turn to you're all panelists, but I'll turn to the two panelists who I have not yet introduced. Starting with Wendy Tyrell. Wendy is the Executive Director and member of the board of the Development Partner Institute. She has worked in sustainability and ESG, responsible sourcing, for more than 25 years across both the mining space and the international development space. She's held senior roles in BHP and Orica, as well as board positions in both the international development space, technology startups, and also in the transparency space with both Transparency International Australia as well as the EITI, which is the Extractives Industry Transparency Initiative. Also on the panel we have Deborah Allen Roger, who hails originally from New York City, although currently lives and works in The Hague, which is known as the City of Peace and Justice. She has a very interesting career path, which began in the clothing design space in the 80s and 90s during a global transformation in manufacturing. Interesting time to be in that space. And then shifted into a second career as a peace builder. She is the co-founder of an organization called Find Out Why, which aims to amplify digital fluency in the global transition in digitization. Wendy, I'm going to turn to you first, if I can, and just open the doors and allow you to react to some of the discussions that have been had today. The common theme between Carlos and Doris's comments are really around designing things differently. I wonder if you'd like to or add some additional commentary.
Thanks very much, Aaron, and I'm so delighted to be part of the LIAMforum. Well, what a fabulous presentation from Doris and Carlos. And designing for the future and designing for sustainability are core to our future. And I am really excited for the opportunity for young people to be involved. Our next generation of leaders is so fundamentally key to to our success. And from our experience at a mine site level, at a community level, at an international global level, the role of young people is integral to the success of designing the future. And I've been involved in a number of conversations where bringing young people to the dialogue has really shifted the conversation. And I am very keen for us as an industry, as a sector, to continue to open the space for our future leaders to be part of the conversations. So recently, we interviewed a number of young leaders from the mining industry in Australia and also in Peru. And some of the insights that we heard from those conversations are that there's a real opportunity for mining and a need for mining to contribute to accelerating production of copper, nickel, lithium, and that in order to do that, we have to think about designing the future in a different way. So I'm really delighted to hear both Doris and Carlos talking about ways that we can do that. I do see that creating the space where people have time, and particularly young people, young Indigenous people, young women, people who've often in the past been excluded from the kinds of conversations that enable us to create the future. It's fundamentally important to bring those voices to the conversation. And we've heard that from young people. There's a real willingness and an interest in being part of shaping the future. So I think our responsibility and part of our work with the Development Partner Institute is to create those forums where genuine dialogue can happen. One point of difference, I would say, between some of the things that we're talking about and what Doris has spoken about. Doris spoke about building trust, which I fundamentally agree with, and eliminating conflict. And I do feel that's a very tall order. I do feel that what we can do as people is to create a space where people can share their goals and share their perspectives and learn from one another, learn about difference and learn to respect different ideas and to create pathways for change from those different ideas. I'm going to pause there, Aaron.
That's wonderful. I think I'm guessing that tees it up really nicely for Deborah, because I think what we have with both Carlos and Doris is some really grounded theories about the mechanisms of how we design differently. And I think what I hear you saying is about being very intentional about how you design that dialogue space, which is the foundation of all of the planning, in my humble opinion. And Deborah, I know that you take a really intentional approach to this idea of design. So I'll leave it to you to fill in the blanks.
So thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here and to hear what everyone has to say, and now to share some of my perspective. And I also grew up in Colorado, so I grew up in a part of the United States that is mined. I've been in many mines in my life as a tourist, never as a miner, but I've certainly known people who've worked in the mines as well growing up. So I have full respect for this industry, and I have full respect for the jobs that are created and the products that come out of the resources of Mother Earth. The thing that I would say, I'm going to argue a few different points. You know, the New Yorker in me is coming out, and the designer in me is coming out now as well. and a bit of the peace builder. And I do want to frame some context around what I say is peacekeeping is about taking the guns away. Peacemaking is about drawing the borders and hoping that they're respected. Peace building is when it's tabula rasa and you build up a thriving future, from a foundation that is trustworthy. And so, Carlos, when I hear you say we need a completely new economic model, for example, right? I think about, and then Wendy, you just said building trust and eliminating conflict. At Find Out Why, it's a digital fluency lab, and we're very much about grounding ourselves in facts and going forward. We talk about being trustworthy, because trust is a byproduct of being trustworthy. We don't build trust. You build trustworthy processes. You build trustworthy systems. And then if we betray those systems, the absence of trust is an accurate response, I would submit. And I would say that for what we call young people, but I would submit informed people and people that aren't in a denialist mindset, the lack of trust is a very, very good sign that they're reading the room correctly, right? Because it's an untrustworthy way of doing business when there is a profit over people model being used. And we have to be honest, we're all over 50, right? We're in the 50 and above crowd, I think, everyone here, maybe not, but we have to be honest and say that we've all worked in we've worked in these decades that you just described very well. Both Doris and Carlos described in detail how broken the systems are. And also, the way in that we all know where some solutions are for us to take action on. The other thing about eliminating conflict, right? As a peace builder, there's no such thing. You can't eliminate conflict, but you can navigate it in a more healthy manner. And so I think that our young people, a lot of them starting in middle school, understand the environment quite well. They understand what the older people have done to degrade it. They understand how we've built these systems. They get it, and they're ready to break them down. But I think what they need in us, I think what they need in us is a willingness to maybe stop explaining the problems and start inspiring them to trust in their own ability to have solutions. And so I'm going to say just two more things about inspiring people, young and old alike. It's about energy, not age, right? We all have the energy to stay in the arena and be in the game. And to inspire people, it's very negative, and not negative, positive, cheerful, happy American, but I don't mean it in that context. But we know the world's broke. We know that we've got a problem. We know it's on fire, right? And so when I lecture in like the sustainable resources course at Utrecht University here in the Netherlands, one of the classes here in the Netherlands, and then my last point is going to be on the Netherlands and the ecosystems here, okay? But one of the things they teach in their science class, in their science curriculum, is how do you find out what your dreams are, and then how do you follow them? Right, and so they have someone come in that I've reinvented myself a few times in life in big ways, and they say, like, how do you do it? And so that's the conversation I think we have to have with people a lot. Those of us who are still in the game, because I'm sure by looking at this panel, we've all had to reinvent ourselves more than once, right? And it's not easy and it's scary, but we did it. And so we've got, boots on the ground in that way. And the last thing that I'll say, and then I'll hand the mic back to you, Aaron, is I started my peace building career in a place that I specifically looked for a place with sound, rational civil society and governance. Because I said, if I'm going to contribute at the age of 59 or 60, I'm 60 now, but I came here at 58. If I'm going to contribute going forward to amplifying something that is working now and could be improved going forward, I can't go backwards. I have to start in a place that's well governed and has a high regard for citizens. And the Netherlands is like one of the best kept secrets. Of course, I just let it out, but it has an e-governance system that is phenomenal. It has a respect and a solidarity concept in the polder model that I have seen play out for 2 years during COVID and lockdown and beyond. And I think that the reason I'm bringing this up is there are many examples of really good systems that are being designed or have been designed that can be amplified. And I think that, and I think we have to do a service to young people about knowing that we can discern those really good systems and then inspire by really talking about why those systems are good. And I'm going to stop now, but anybody that does want to hear my thoughts on why the Dutch system is so good, we live 2 meters below the water line at all times. If the system isn't working, we're all underwater and we're built on sand. So it's a phenomenally designed system, and there's no reason mining, resource extraction, and all sustainable design going forward. There's no reason that the health of the citizens can't be a center point in everything we do. And so I'm fighting for that. That's my peace building. If it's thriving, it's going towards peace. If it's being destroyed and degraded, it is spiraling down into conflict. Okay, so on that note, I will hand the mic back.
Thank you, Deborah. That's really fascinating. I could ask you a lot of follow-ups to that, but I do want to respect the fact that there's some good questions that are coming out of the chat as well. And the first one, Carlos, I would like to turn to you if I could. And the question specifically reads as such: if the criminal aspect of cutting forests continues, does planting new trees just fuel the activity, like putting more money in the bank for bank robbers? And I think that ties to the question that I had earlier about can you provide a solid example of where the shift is? What does an agro-ecological system look like? Is it just planting new trees, or is it more than that? And if you could speak to that.
I think, you know, there are many good examples in the whole Amazon. But although the numbers are very small compared to the whole area, 6.5 million square kilometers, but there are many cooperatives, organizations in the Amazon, which are practicing for many decades what the indigenous people there, humans arrived in the Amazon 12,000 years ago. The indigenous people are practicing for thousands of years because in fact, the indigenous people developed the indigenous science, which is the agroecological systems. If you go and look at the forest, it's not identical to the forest before the humans came. They started really producing many products out of the forest. So let's say the composition of the forest has been changed by humans, but the forest was there. All the ecosystem services, protecting biodiversity, storing carbon, helping to maintain rainfall, cooler temperatures, all those things. And also, of course, the indigenous people, they used hundreds and hundreds of different products for food, drugs, everything. So the agroecological systems now are, you know, how we bring even modern science and modern technology to restore the forest. And there are many agroecological systems in the Amazon which produce not one product like soy grain or a pound of beef, but they produce 100 different products. And they are starting to reach markets. So those communities are improving their livelihood. When they were very poor cattle ranchers, they were extremely poor. Now they improved. Some of these people reached middle class. So it's interesting for us as well in the Amazon to learn from what Deborah said. You know, Netherlands has the most developed agriculture in the planet, and also all the farmers in the Netherlands, they are middle class. So we have really to learn how you can develop a much more sustainable. I'm not going to say that all the agriculture in the Netherlands is 100% sustainable, but it's much more sustainable than what's going on in the global tropics. So we should really learn. This is a big challenge, and we are in the science panel for the Amazon, we are trying to face this challenge, which is how to bring a science-based model, a nature-based, science-based model for the Amazon, bringing also technological innovations like we've seen all these digital worlds can help support this new model, but also how to merge with traditional knowledge of indigenous people and local communities. They've been there for hundreds of years, thousands of years. So this is a big challenge we still have to face, how to value the traditional knowledge of the indigenous people. So I would stop now answering this question.
Thank you for that. I'm going to turn to Doris now. There's another audience question here, if you can see it. The question is about if there are any practical examples of DSP that you can speak to.
Thanks, Aaron. And I would like to take advantage to answer some of the comments as well. Yes, this is a new method. It took us 10 years to develop. I've done 6 high-level studies, happy to share some of them because some are confidential. We are very close to do pilots. The high-level study is a 3-month desktop, but the whole pilot is on the ground. The method is a process as well. So it's really co-design. It's intimate partnership on the ground with all the interested parties involved. It's a whole training. So it's not really something to do on my desk. So, and the other comment I want to make about conflict and trust, again, it's co-design through partnership, intimate work on the ground. And the second piece is that we build these integrated natural resource models, visualizing the hidden potential underground, surface, and climate. And that gets people inspired into all the possibilities and, you know, really get connected to the region. And that feeds into the design. The difficult part is the design. Again, it's a collaborative exercise. And so those facts align because everybody has different interests, so help us align. And then the third part is, right now, the current situation, the mine is the target. Everything begins and ends with mining because it's the engine of the economy. They're the biggest investors. So there's nothing they can do that's right. So once you change the focus entirely into the region and they all work together for the common good, then things change. Mining isn't the target, it's just the catalyst, one of the players. So once everybody's working for the common good, then that's where the trust begins and conflict disappears because there's no one to go after that because the focus is the region. Thank you. And I'm happy to share a lot more, of course, but you can contact me through email or LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you, Doris. I'm going to turn the last question, same question, I guess, to both of you, Deborah and Wendy. Whether it's DSP, whether it's agriculture in the Netherlands, whether it's small cooperatives in the Amazon, there are lots of good models for water management, biodiversity management, economic planning, local governance, regional governance. If you look, the world is abundant with examples, good examples. The challenge, I think, is about change management and adopting those to new places. And so the question to both of you is, where are the roadblocks and how do we burst through those change management roadblocks?
So where are the roadblocks? Thank you, Wendy. So where are the roadblocks? I often think about this since as I said, I work in peace building and I think of it as from a gender perspective as well, saying women were given their rights, ... This is a perfect model of women were not, the rights were taken from them and then they were taken back, right? So it's not as though we're helpless. It's not as though we don't have some sense of agency in terms of understanding where exactly the blocks exist. And often, like you're saying, Carlos, I mean, if you've got 95% of the logging is illegal, then there's a breakdown in the governance system as well. Because if you don't have an enforceable industry and you have no accountability, all the transparency in the world isn't going to make a difference, as we saw with George Floyd. Transparency does not fix the problem. We're watching it. We're watching the world burn, right? We can see it. It's as transparent as it can be. But accountability is a different story, and measures are. And so what I wanted to say is that with the young people that I work with that are all, they're thinking in the digital sphere as well. They are transforming things due to accountability, even using blockchain system design, right? Because you can't, for example, in the shipping industry, once you get your logs, your ledgers and logs on the blockchain, it's very difficult to hide the illegal activity in the new system design for accountability from point A to point B to the end of the value chain and the supply chain. So I would submit that the changes being done digitally in supply chain management in the world of mining is going to change the game, because the fiefdoms that are built around extraction then start to dissolve in this decentralized perspective. And for young people who are digital natives, we just got to support them and get out of the way. They're already starting to design amazing solutions. And when you work with them, and that's the thing, I mean, I'm in the Netherlands and I'm in the universities here as well, and I'm observing curriculums. So the other way to remove the block, right? So I'm saying get good governance, expect good governance, and make way for young people to really be able to be supported and fostered in this digital space, because changing supply chain management is a big change management, right? Is the curriculums, change the curriculums, get it back into human-centered and sustainability programs throughout all the curriculums that teach. I come from a world of engineers. I'm surrounded by engineers. And in the programs, most of the people that I know that obtained engineering degrees have not spent much time in what people call soft sciences. But for younger people, they're in user experience mindsets already. And that user experience mindset and data visualization, et cetera, that's something, last point, they're bringing the heart back into the mix. So it's coming back. So we just got to make room for that. And I would submit that as we become more emotionally aware and, it sounds so sort of hippy dippy 1970s, but in reality, once we care more about each other, that's how you get rid of the blocks. Because those of us who've been around for a long time, we help clear the way. So that's how I would describe that.
Thank you.
Wendy?
Wendy, the last word is to you.
So we have just 1 minute. The biggest block that we have is that we think we know the answers, and we don't allow enough space for those who bring different perspectives and a diversity of views to solutions, to the development of solutions. And so unblocking means creating space for Indigenous people to share their different knowledge, for women to share their different knowledge, for young people to share and to be part of the future decision making. That's the answer to unblocking.
Thank you for that very important, powerful, but nice and short little sound bite to end things off. It's so true. I really wish we could keep talking. I have so many questions for all of you, but we are at risk of taking up time for the next session. So with that, Justin, I'm going to hand it back to you and just extend a very warm thank you to all of you.